Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I also don't want to debate how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin. I think you understand where a lot of these questions are coming from. Mr. Geyser, would you ever advise a client to ignore a federal district court opinion?
Thank you very much, Senator Kennedy. I would advise it.
Thank me. You can thank me by answering it.
I would advise a client on how best to comply with all lawful court orders.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes, sir.
All right, folks, welcome back to Liberty Trigger, where liberty lives, where truth is spoken, and where the swamp gets exposed for what it is. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button right now, because today, oh man, you're about to see why Senator John Kennedy is one of the sharpest knives in Washington's drawer. So picture this, a judiciary hearing. Senator Kennedy is questioning attorneys Geyser and Woodward. Simple setup, right? But let me tell you, this turned into a masterclass in accountability. Kennedy looks him dead in the eye and asks the simplest question you can imagine. Would you ever advise a client to ignore a federal court order? That's it. Straightforward. Yes or no?
You would advise a client not to follow a federal district court opinion?
I would advise a client to follow court orders.
Would you ever advise a client not to follow a federal court of appeals decision?
I had the privilege of clerking on 2 federal courts of appeals.
Is that a yes or no?
Yes. I would advise them to follow the orders of courts of appeals.
How about Supreme Court opinion?
Yes, Senator, I would advise them to follow the Supreme Court's orders, as President Trump has been very clear that those orders are to be followed.
Mr. Woodward, let me ask you the same question. Would you ever advise a client not to follow a district court opinion?
No, Senator.
Would you ever advise a client not to abide by an opinion of the Federal Court of Appeals?
No, Senator. Again, it's difficult to answer in the hypothetical, but...
Would you ever advise a client not to follow an opinion by the United States Supreme Court?
No, Senator. As the President has been clear, he will follow all orders of the United States Supreme Court.
Tell me what I would need to do under the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, if I want to change a current rule.
Well, Senator, as a senator, you would pass a law that would change the...
No. I don't want to play games here, Counsel. What would one have to do? What would the head of an agency have to do to overturn a current rule or regulation?
Well, Senator, I apologize. I know that there are many ways to do that, and I don't want to play games either. I want to answer the question.
That's fair.
There are many ways in which an agency can overturn a rule.
Well, you have to give notice, right?
As a general matter, yes, Senator.
Yeah. And you have to invite input, right?
As a general matter, yes, Senator.
Okay. And sometimes you have to hold a hearing, right?
Sometimes you do, Senator.
Yeah. Are there any exceptions to that under the Administrative Procedures Act?
Under the Administrative Procedures Act, I'm not aware of any exceptions, but there are exceptions under the law.
Okay. Are you familiar with the good cause exception to the Administrative Procedures Act?
Senator, I am vaguely familiar with that exception.
Okay. Do you know what it says?
No, Senator, I do not.
I understand. Here's what I'm driving at. Are you familiar with the Supreme Court's case called Loper Bright?
Senator, I am vaguely familiar with the Supreme Court's decision in Loper Bright.
The overturned Chevron doctrine, right?
The Chevron deference doctrine, yes, Senator.
Okay.
And what happens? They squirm. They stutter. They dance around it like they're auditioning for Broadway. Kennedy wasn't having it. He pressed them again and again until they finally admitted, yes, courts must be obeyed. Boom. That's how you cut through the nonsense. And then, this is where it gets good. Kennedy shifts to the Administrative Procedures Act. Most Americans don't think about it. But folks, this is a playground of the deep state. This is where unelected bureaucrats pass rules and shove them down your throat without you ever having a say. Kennedy pinned Woodward down. What do you need to change a rule? Notice, public input, sometimes hearings. That's how it's supposed to work. But then comes a kicker, the so-called good cause exception. A sneaky loophole that lets agencies skip the rules. And guess what? They exploit it every chance they get. That's not democracy. That's tyranny with a smiley face sticker slapped on it. And then Kennedy ties it all to the Supreme Court's Loper Bright decision. Patriots, this is huge. That decision killed Chevron deference, the doctrine that gave agencies the power to interpret laws however they wanted. For decades, they've been acting like mini legislatures, passing their own rules unchecked. Well, not anymore. Kennedy's point? If a rule violates the Supreme Court, the DOJ shouldn't sit around hiding behind bureaucratic excuses. They should kill it immediately. Done. End of story. And he's absolutely right. The Supreme Court is the law of the land, not some unelected, overpaid pencil pusher at a government agency. Here's the truth, folks. The left thrives on confusion. They love loopholes. They love technicalities. They love big words that make you feel like you don't belong in the conversation. Why? Because it keeps them in power. But Kennedy exposed it. With one simple question at a time, he tore down the smokescreen. And that's what scares the left. They don't fear arguments. They fear clarity. Because clarity exposes lies. So let me give you my opinion as a patriot. Every single unelected bureaucrat who abuses these loopholes should be held accountable. If you can't respect the courts, if you can't respect the Constitution, you have no business writing rules for free Americans. Period. End of discussion. Now, here's what you can do. Stay vigilant. Don't let these bureaucrats sneak their rules through the back door. Watch the hearings. Follow the APA fights. Know the Supreme Court decisions. Because what happens in those rooms today will shape the freedom of your kids tomorrow. So tell me down in the comments. Do you think the DOJ should be able to bypass the courts with shady loopholes? Or do you agree with Kennedy that the Constitution is clear and the courts must be obeyed? Let's get this conversation trending, folks. This is Capital Truth. Senator Kennedy just reminded America of one thing. The Constitution still matters. And as long as we stand, liberty will live. God bless you. God bless our Constitution. And God bless the United States of America. Until next time, stay vigilant and stay free.